Hello and welcome to the big picture. The mother of all battles, as some are dubbing it, has begun in Iraq. A US-backed Iraqi government forces supported by the Kurdish Peshmerga forces have launched an offensive to drive out the Islamic State from Iraq's second largest city, Mosul. Mosul is the place where the ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi declared the ISIS caliphate over 2 years ago when it captured the city. The offensive, which was launched yesterday, has already made gains, with 9 villages liberated and about 200 square kilometers of territory regained by the coalition forces. The battle for Mosul, where over 1 million people are said to be staying under the control of the ISIS, is expected to be a long, drawn-out and bloody battle. We will today discuss this operation, which is being dubbed the biggest operation in Iraq since the 2003 American-led invasion that toppled Saddam Hussein. We will also discuss what are the consequences of this battle if the forces manage to recapture Mosul. To discuss this, I have with me Chinmaya Agha, former ambassador and also a special envoy of India for the Middle East, Prof.A.K.Pasha, Center for West Asian Studies, JNU, Major General retired Ashok Mehta, a security analyst and incidentally somebody who was there in Iraq during the 2003 war, and Qamar Agha, senior journalist. Welcome to all of you. Mr. R.Gharekhan, how important is this battle? It is being dubbed as one of the largest, the biggest since 2003 and, a mother of all battles. How important is this?
No, it is a very important battle. There is no doubt about this. You remember the Iraqi forces disintegrated completely when the Islamic State was declared, and so much money and effort was spent by the Americans to train those Iraqi forces. They just disappeared and ran. So it is a matter of great prestige for this Iraqi government and the Iraqi armed forces. But as you said, it is a coalition of forces, and all kinds of different forces are involved in this. So it is extremely important for the Iraq as well as for the Islamic State, or the Daesh it is called, because if the Daesh loses this, if they lose Mosul, which I think will be the end result after maybe a prolonged and bloody battle, as you said. But see, the main attraction which the Islamic State has for Muslims all over the world is that it has an area, it has a territory. So declaring caliphate makes a sense, that because you have to caliphate, you must have some area, some state. But if Mosul goes, then they are out of Iraq altogether, and then they fall back to Syria, where they have also some territory, especially their capital called Raqqa. So for both sides, it is an extremely important battle.
Okay, Professor Pasha, what has been the cause for ISIS losing ground in these last 2 years?
Multiple causes. Firstly, the administration has been under criticism for quite some time. The taxes, heavy taxes which they have levied, although bulk of the supplies come from the Turkish side, the administration and the heavy taxation has alienated bulk of the traders there. And
who were earlier supporting them?
Yes.
I'm talking of the ISIS.
Yes. They welcomed them because the Shia-backed Iraqi security forces and the Iranian-backed militias, the Sunnis particularly there in Mosul, they were fearful of that. So that's how they thought the Islamic State would be a better alternative for their security and prosperity. That, I think, has been ebbing for quite some time. And also the very harsh, cruel punishments which they have meted out across the board. It has alienated bulk of the observing Muslims. It was largely a secular population of Sunnis which migrated from different parts of the Iraqi cities to Mosul. In fact, it was historically a Kurdish city,
right,
and Turkomans also stayed. But during Saddam's rule, deliberately he populated the Mosul with Sunnis from Tikrit and Ramadi and Fallujah and Baghdad, so on and so forth. So these Sunnis were of a secular type, not the very observant Muslims which you find in other places. So in that way, these Sunnis also have, been resenting the high-handedness and very severe kind of punishment, extremism of the Islamic State. But there are two other factors. One is, of course, it is a difficult moment for the Iraqi federal government. They have not been able to retake this as they did Fallujah. But the involvement of the Peshmergas is important because the Kurds claim this to be their city. And the Turks also have demanded from the Iraqi government that they should be part of this invasion to liberate Mosul, because they feel it is their part of the cake also. So in that way, you have multiple factions, the Iraqi government, the Kurdish government, the Turkish government, the United States 60-member coalition, all of these factors. I think this is going to be a very important battle, but everything is up for grabs because it may take weeks and months because of the forces, because most of the Saddam Hussein's army, Sunni generals, top elites who disbanded the army, they are stationed and they are the backbone of the Islamic forces, fighting elements. They will put up a very stout resistance.
General Mehta, so this Tikrit has been recaptured, Fallujah has been recaptured, Ramadi has been recaptured. Is this going to be a different ball game?
Well, 2 years ago, I was attending a war game in Herzliya, that is Israel, and the top minds, American top thinkers from Rand Corporation and from other corporations, including Brian Jenkins, was there, and they were saying that ISIS, Daesh, is invincible.
They were saying that. The Americans were saying
the Americans were saying, these top analysts, and then they were thinking at that time in this war game that how are we going to get the Daesh out of Iraq? And two things came that stand out in my mind are that the first thing they said that the Iraqi army has proven to be a washout, and that we've just heard why, and that there was a whole lot of retraining of the Iraqi army that was required. The second thing that was discovered was that by merely bombing the ISIS from the air, and you have this coalition of bombers, 60-country coalition with the Germans providing the surveillance and AWACS, that you've dented the ISIS, but in order to defeat the ISIS, you had to put boots on the ground. And those boots on the ground could not be foreign boots. Like when I covered the war in 2003, it was the Americans. They said that it has to be the locals. In other words, the Iraqis have to fight this scourge, and therefore the retraining of the Iraqi army under a 3-star general, a full brigade of trainers has been going on for the last 2 years.
Okay.
So it's a very well-prepared operation which will significantly alter the future of ISIS. And to what I was saying earlier, the myth of invincibility of the ISIS may get broken. And once that myth of ISIS is broken, and you are calling this the mother of all battles, the word being used is Stalingrad. They are talking of something like 8,000 die-hard, hardcore Sunni fighters who will defend. And by the way, Mosul is changed even between 2003 and 2016. Mosul is now an alleyway. There are by-lanes, there are high-rise buildings, and to fight in built-up areas as a soldier, I know, it is extremely difficult. And the collateral, if you are to avoid collateral, then you have to fight street by street, house by house, and therefore it's being called Stalingrad. And somebody asked the question, will this battle be over by Christmas? I doubt it. I doubt it very much. So it will be a long, drawn-out battle. A lot of casualties will be taken, and it will be the turning point for the future of the ISIS.
Qamar, so future of ISIS, this is what, though it may be a little premature for us to talk about, what will happen in Mosul actually, though General Mehta says that ultimately, the forces, the coalition forces may be able to recapture Mosul. But if that recapture happens, what happens to ISIS?
You see, ISIS, a lot of ISIS guys have already moved to Syria. There are reports which suggest 8 to 10,000. Some says 5 to 7,000. They've already entered into. Other reports are suggesting that between 4 to 10,000 are still in Mosul. It is easy to drive them out, maybe 1 month or 2 months as General has mentioned. But the ideology is there. Ideology is not going to die down with the expulsion of the ISIS from there. And the support base, as Pasha has mentioned, the Iraqi army is the major support base, So the problem is, the sectarian conflict which is going on in Iraq, Syria, and the whole region as in the Gulf. The problem is, the local support, local countries' support which they are receiving will continue to be there because the other countries of the region, they believe, it's a Shia arc, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and they believe, their general belief is that, Iraq, Shia may be in majority, but the region is Sunni, and we cannot accept a Shia government. And this is for the first time in the history, the Shias have been able to form their government because of the democracy came. So these are the difficult things, it will take very long, although the Prime Minister Abadi has taken a lot of measures, try to bridge the relationship or friendly ties with the Sunni co-religionist or even with the local Kurds, who are there. He spent a lot of money, given arms and training, everything, made available to them, and hoping, to improve ties. Iraq historically have been very friendly ties between Shia and Sunnis. The relation worsened, after the Iran-Iraq war. And then we saw, before that, Iraq was a very secular country, In fact, the Shias in Iraq has supported the Ba'ath party, because they wanted a secular government there and the majority, but later they were let down, marginalized absolutely and become. So these are the problem, and similar problem we are seeing in Syria also, where the sectarian conflict is also going on. So it's not the only, driving them out and then improving ties between the communities. And in that,
going to be the challenge.
In that, the regional support has to be there. Otherwise, the conflict would continue in some other form and some. Just 1 second. Earlier, we saw Al-Qaeda in Baghdad was there. Then Al-Qaeda in Arabian Peninsula came. Then ISIS came. And after that, I don't know what will happen,
Okay.
Maybe some more form. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
This point that has just been made about local support, for any battle, whether it is insurgency like Jammu and Kashmir, if you don't have the local support, then it's a win or lose battle. And therefore, it is crucial, despite what Mr. Pasha said, that they have extorted taxes and they may have alienated. But when it comes to blood being thicker than water, I think the ideological part is that the Sunni local population will support, as far as I can guess, the IS, and that will make a crucial difference.
Yes.
I want to add,
Yeah.
I don't think the local Sunnis will support, but the remnant of the Saddam, Saddam loyalists will extend support definitely, because we have seen what has happened in yesterday or day before yesterday. One of the Syrian town was, liberated by the Kurds. The people came out in large number in the streets. They were dancing. They burned the burqas. Ladies burned the burqas. They were smoking on the streets. So they celebrated.
That's on the border. That's on the border. In Mosul, the indoctrination and the radicalization of these people has been, I am giving you not just my personal view, but people who have studied the conversion of the Sunnis inside Mosul by the ISIS, because this is their last stand battle, and they knew it.
Okay.
And therefore, this is a very crucial factor.
Mr. Gharekhan, the ideological basis on which this whole movement, if you want to call it a movement or whatever it is called, which has started, will it die down with this, or it will just move away as Qamar says? It may move away to Syria, it may move away to Turkey, it may wherever it.
No, the ideological hold among educated Muslims is very strong. And
in that entire region?
In the entire region and spreading around the world. In our own country also, people are volunteering and they are educated. They are not unemployed and from poor families and all that. So the ideology will remain strong. It cannot be uprooted, except perhaps theoretically over a long period of time. So the ideology will remain. But as I said earlier, the most attractive feature of Islamic State is that it controls territory. And even if they lose Mosul, which they will, at some high cost, etc., then they will be left with whatever they have in Syria. And if the Raqqa, I think I will defer to General Mehta's assessment of that, but Raqqa will be much easier to defeat than Mosul. And if that is the case, then the Islamic State's raison d'etre for existence for the caliphate disappears. But there are thousands of fighters from all around the world who have gone to assist and to take part in this, for them, a holy war, a big jihad. Those chaps will remain.
Okay. Professor Pasha, but the demoralization in the forces, to that extent, Mosul is very important for the coalition forces, because demoralization will set in, and that demoralization is not easy to overcome.
Yes, it is a very important factor. If they are pushed out of Mosul, it will be a great setback. There is no doubt, but that will not be the end of the Islamic State.
You don't think it will be the end?
No, because they control about 40% of northeast of Syria, where they have major cities, towns, villages, and major areas, agricultural areas also. But my major concern is Mosul might become like what Aleppo is going through now. Much of it has been destroyed. Old and new.
Before this recapture happens, the town of the city of Mosul could be destroyed.
Like it has happened in the case of Fallujah, Ramadi, Tikrit, all of these areas which are under IS control, they were liberated after long, bitter struggle. But very few Sunnis have been able to go there.
And the rebuilding is taking a long time.
Yes. The other danger is the Mosul dam is very near to the city.
Okay.
And it has changed hands between the Islamic State and the Iraqi forces and the Kurds. So if that is attacked, it might flood major parts of the Iraqi central state, and it may lead to a lot of flooding and casualties, so on and so forth. And these are desperate people. These Islamic State jihadis are desperate people. They will not hesitate to take any such action.
No, but there is one very important factor for the Daesh. The Mosul oil in Mosul, they are making a lot of money.
Exactly.
The sale of oil which Turkey is buying, though it is denying that. And if they lose that important source of revenue, they are in big trouble.
Yes, sir.
They are taking off from what you said, that in the history of insurgency and terrorism, the best resourced outfit is the Daesh. And one of the reasons is the oil revenues. They have something like $5 billion worth of assets in terms of liquid cash, as well as a monthly revenue of $2 million that the IS is making. Now, the question is that if push comes to a shove and Mosul is lost, so what are the options? One option is that they can go to Raqqa, but I don't think that Raqqa gives you such a stand that will allow IS to have the part of the caliphate. So what is being suggested is that either they go underground, what all insurgencies do or fighters do, you go underground as the Saddamists did, or
Al-Qaeda,
or you transfer to Libya. So you make a this is very seriously being spoken about, that the ISIS at some point in time, plan A is underground in Iraq itself, plan B is to shift your headquarters to Libya.
Okay, Qamar, as far as the US stakes are concerned in this, are they going to be happy? Is US going to be happy if Mosul is recaptured, and after that, what? Do they have any stakes left after that?
Yes, they have, Now they have a good relation with the local government in Iraq. They have stakes in Kurdish region also. They have very friendly ties with the Kurdish autonomous region. Then they want to create this Sunni enclave also, where they have gained some support. They have very good ties with the Arab tribal chiefs and Arab tribes, and they're supporting them, So it's a coalition, It's a conversion of interests, where the Arab tribes, then the Kurdish Peshmerga, and the local government, Iraqi central government, all have decided, to push, throw the ISIS out and bring some sort of stability. But as mentioned, the insurgency will not die down. I believe, large number of these fighters will join Al-Nusra. As you mentioned, Al-Qaeda, that is Al-Qaeda's franchisee. A lot of people who are going to Syria, because in Syria, Al-Nusra is very strong. So they would prefer Al-Nusra, and those who could manage to go and reach up to the Libya, they'll definitely try, because Libya, they have a strong base. They have managed to build a small base, and they have some supporters of the previous regime, Gaddafi's regime also. They managed to get some weapons also of the past regime, and they have sympathizer among the old Libyan army. So there they might move. They'll try and go there.
Okay. Mr. Gharekhan, as far as the US interests are concerned.
Well, the US, President Obama had declared that we will degrade and defeat Islamic State. I think he is on the verge of achieving his stated, declared objective. So for them also it's very important, because if the Iraqi forces show themselves capable of fighting a war or a battle with some conviction, then the Americans stand vindicated of the billions and billions that they have invested in the Iraqi armed forces. So for them it is very, and for Mr. Obama it is particularly important, because he is now at the end of his term.
To leave a legacy.
So you have to leave a legacy. He can say that, well, I settled Iraq at least before the end of my term. So it is very important for Mr. Obama personally.
Pasha?
Just 1 second, I just...
Yeah. Come on.
For American, oil continues to be an important factor, Iraq, is virtually floating on oil. And the quality of Iraqi oil is one of the finest in that region, Refining charges is much less than the Saudi or Iranian or any Kuwaiti oil. So everybody has an eye of that market. And American businessmen, the oil companies, they're still willing to invest in America, in Iraq, because Basra oil is supposed to be good, and Basra, that area is, quite peaceful compared to Mosul or Baghdad or other provinces.
Okay, but Prof.A.K.Pasha.
Yeah, the major beneficiary from this Mosul operation, I think, would be the Kurdish groups. Masoud Barzani has been calling for a referendum, which this federal government was supposed to hold it, but for various reasons, it has been postponed. From 91 onwards, the British and the Americans have been systematically helping the Kurds. And this battle would eventually help the Kurdish autonomous region in the north. And more importantly, the Syrian Kurds already are autonomous and independent. And the Turks have not been able to dent them. In spite of the Turkish incursions into the Iraqi Kurdistan, they have been able to dent their offensive also, although they have a presence in the northern Iraq. So ultimately it is the Kurdish autonomous region which would benefit after the liberation of Mosul from the Islamic State.
What will be the impact on Turkey?
Turkey, because the Turkish government is now on friendly terms with the Masoud Barzani autonomous government. because although the Syrian Kurds want to be allies of the Iraqi Kurds, but they have been able to divide the Iraqi and the Syrian Kurds. So in that way, Masoud Barzani is on very friendly terms with the Turkish government. That is precisely why he is trying to ward off the Iraqi demand, Erdogan's demand to include the Turkish forces also in the liberation of Mosul.
Sir, but you know, it is said that after once the liberation takes place of Mosul, then to get people back there, millions of, nearly a million people have left.
Most of the Sunnis have already left or on their way out from where they came from. And the Kurdish groups, about 40 to Turkmans and Kurdish, they form about 40%. They would spread out. Already they are being welcomed in the Kurdish villages in the north and the east. So in that way, it was the Kurdish population which will remain, which will stay put in much of the Mosul area, and the Sunnis eventually would flee the city.
Flee the city. And there is a talk that maybe there may be some kind of a separate Sunnistan kind of a situation.
Returning to the old trifurcation of what Iraq was. But I want to make another point that what the military operation must try to do is to get and to find, fix and finish, as the Americans say, the 8,000 or 10,000 hardcore ISIS fighters. Because if they go underground and disperse, already the IS ideology has, even with the truncated caliphate, it has already spread to parts of Southeast Asia. Every country in Southeast Asia today, whether it's Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, coming on to our Khorasan, is affected by the Daesh ideology. And therefore, from the American point of view, while they might be able to liberate Iraq, but IS has spread its wings all over North Africa, Yemen, Southeast Asia.
So that will be the next big challenge for the world itself, not just America. That even if liberation of Mosul takes place, how to liberate this world from the ISIS is going to be the next biggest challenge. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the big picture, same time tomorrow.